Amazing revelation. My granddaughter exposed a hidden secret, transforming our family forever. Rain drummed against the windows with a relentless rhythm as Sarah stood in the dim light of the diner, her hands trembling on the worn counter. The smell of strong coffee and greasy fries filled the air, but it did little to ground her. Just this morning, Lily had bounded down the stairs, her eyes wide with excitement, clutching a yellowing letter she'd found buried in the attic. "Mom, it's about our family. There's something big here," Lily had exclaimed, her enthusiasm flooding Sarah's heart with a bittersweet ache. But beneath her daughter's innocence lay an undercurrent of dread that twisted in Sarah's stomach. How could she allow Lily to delve deeper into their family history when so much of it was mired in sacrifice and pain? Her mind raced. The weight of financial struggles was all-consuming, and the diner job was the only way she could keep them afloat. In the blinking neon light of the open sign, she could see her future collapse if the shadows of the past came creeping back in. Just as her thoughts spiraled, the bell above the door chimed, and Jennifer strolled in, her figure casting a long shadow in the cramped space. Sarah's stress tightened around her heart. "Hey, Sarah, what's up with little Lily today?" Jennifer's tone was casual, but Sarah could sense the underlying agenda. Her friend was too keen on the local gossip that often revolved around familial affairs. Before Sarah could reply, the weight of her choices loomed over her. Should she pursue the lineage that hinted at an inheritance long forgotten? Fear gripped her. She couldn't shake the thought of losing her job at the diner and the community she had come to rely on. What would that say about me, she thought, her mind awash in turmoil. It would mean confronting old scars, feelings of betrayal, and perhaps a rift with Jennifer, who already eyed any conversation with an opportunistic gleam. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As Jennifer leaned against the counter, her piercing gaze bore into Sarah, eliciting a resurgence of doubt. What if uncovering this legacy meant discovering dark secrets tied to her sacrifices as a mother? A scream echoed in her mind. "You're failing." Could she truly fight for what was rightfully hers without compromising her identity as a hardworking mother? Time stretched painfully. Sarah's pulse quickened. The din of clinking cutlery and idle chatter faded. Her thoughts spiraled, caught in a whirlwind of what-ifs and worries. She felt caught in opposing currents. The pull of ambition to restore her family name clashed with the need to remain just an ordinary diner worker. What if Jennifer took it too far, exposing them both to scrutiny? What would that mean for Lily's future? Standing at this precipice, Sarah wrestled with the unrelenting question of what legacy should truly mean, a burden or an opportunity. With the storm raging outside, mirroring the turmoil within, uncertainty gripped her heart. Decisions loomed large, waiting to be made, but dread held her fast as she felt the weight of heritage pressing down hard upon her shoulders. Sarah's breath hitched as the weight of her choices settled into the spaces between her thoughts. Lily's innocent curiosity about the family letter felt like a relentless tide, threatening to drown her in the depths of consequences she was not ready to confront. It was easy to dismiss her daughter's excitement, an apprehensive facade knitting itself tightly around her as she weighed the possibility of unearthing a forgotten legacy that could lead to financial solace or deeper familial discord. What do I really want? she asked herself, struggling against the swell of questions. The diner, dimly lit and filled with the comforting clatter of plates, was the one constant in her life, a sanctuary of routine amidst chaos. But it was also a mirror reflecting her stagnation. If she turned away from this chance, would she be willingly chaining herself to a cycle of struggle? As the rain outside intensified, so did her determination to take control. That letter could signify a turning point. Perhaps it held the keys to a future where they wouldn't have to scrape by. With renewed resolve, she shifted her gaze from the counter to Jennifer, whose persistent questioning felt like needles prodding at her vulnerabilities. "What if I told you I'm thinking about exploring our family history?" Jennifer's brows lifted in surprise, clearly unprepared for the revelation. "Wow, really? I had no idea you were into that kind of thing." "So you're not so keen on gossip, after all?" Sarah challenged, hoping to deflect some of the scrutiny away from herself. "What's there to gossip about? I'm just interested, is all," Jennifer replied, her tone softening. The tension between them eased momentarily, but Sarah remained cautious. Each time she peeled back a layer of her guarded self, the fear of judgment resurfaced like an unwelcome specter. Determined to push through, the words burst from her. "I just want to know what the letter says. It could change everything." "Change everything?" Jennifer echoed, a flicker of intrigue lighting up her eyes. The offer of adventure hung in the air, mixed with the taste of trepidation. Did she want this tidbit of vulnerability to fuel more gossip? Visions of uncovering her family's past danced in her mind, illuminating pathways strewn with uncertainty and surprises. But it also held the potential of self-discovery. Wouldn't becoming empowered through knowledge about her heritage teach Lily the importance of understanding their roots? With newfound clarity, she would not let herself remain shackled by others' perceptions. Instead of a cycle of shame, she could forge a legacy steeped in pride and resilience. "Maybe I should invite Lily to delve into this with me," she thought. It would be an opportunity for them to bond over shared discoveries. The idea fluttered like a moth around a flame, dangerous yet compelling. Yet, as the storm raged on, inner turmoil pressed against her resolve. Could she face the truths that the past might reveal? With each passing second, decisions became clearer and uncertainty morphed into conviction. "I'm going to explore it," she declared, surprising even herself. "I can't hide forever." The diner transformed into a sanctuary of determination, a launching pad for a pivotal journey that could reshape her identity. As she envisioned possibilities rolling out ahead, the door swung open once more, and a gust of wind burst into the diner, carrying with it an unexpected visitor, a woman from her past, the very one she had hoped to avoid. The moment of confrontation loomed, and Sarah had to question whether she was ready to face the ghosts of her family's legacy, as well as the shadows of her own choices. Would she stand firm in her newfound determination, or would the fear of uncovering the truth hold her back? The woman stepped inside, her presence cutting through the warm diner air like a cold gust. Sarah's heart raced, her newfound resolve quaking in the face of the past incarnate. It was Helen, the last person she wished to encounter, the matriarch whose choices had reverberated through generations, leaving a legacy intertwined with both love and resentment. "What are you doing here?" Sarah's voice betrayed her chill, an involuntary defensiveness rising within her. Helen's piercing gaze softened at the edges, but held a steely determination. "I came to see you, Sarah. We need to talk." The simplicity of Helen's statement seemed to hang heavy between them, laden with unspoken words and hidden histories. "I don't know if there's anything left to say," Sarah replied, folding her arms as if to shield herself from the emotional onslaught she feared might ensue. Deep down, she recognized this moment as a crossroads, not just for her relationship with Helen, but for her own journey towards understanding. That letter, Helen continued, you're thinking about it, aren't you? Sarah hesitated, her inner conflict flaring. The letter posed an overwhelming lure for clarity, yet it also threatened to unearth familial truths she had long buried. I can handle my family history, she asserted, though doubt flickered in her conviction. Can you? Helen pressed, stepping closer, her voice lower now, almost conspiratorial. You think uncovering the past will bring peace, but sometimes it only complicates things further. Sarah recoiled. What do you know about peace? The anger surged in her, dragging along all the hurt and betrayal she had bottled up for years. In that moment, the diner faded into the background, and it was just the two of them, caught in a web of memories that felt both familiar and suffocating. Helen's expression darkened, a storm cloud gathering in her eyes. You're right, I made my mistakes, but, she took a breath, steadying herself, you can't ignore the past forever. It will chase you, and one day it will answer every question you've avoided. The weight of those words pressed into Sarah's chest. Wasn't this why she had considered exploring her family history in the first place? Perhaps it was less about understanding a legacy and more about confronting the demons that had shaped her perception of family and self-worth. That letter, Helen repeated, her tone relenting slightly. It's a doorway. It could change everything for your daughter, but you need to be ready. Are you? The question hung like an open invitation. Could Sarah summon the strength to break the cycle of fear that had bound her for years? The idea of exploring the truth now seemed no longer a romanticized adventure, but a daunting expedition into grief, regret, and the unforeseen, a treacherous land she was unprepared to traverse alone. She began, the words catching in her throat as images of Lily flashed through her mind. In that moment, Sarah understood this journey was more than about her. It was about paving a path for Lily and their intertwined destinies. I want to know, she finally declared, but I need your help. We can't face this alone. Helen's expression softened, a glimmer of hope sparking in her eyes. Then let's start together. The air shifted around them, a fragile alliance forming as the shadows of the past loomed large, but seemed less menacing when faced together. Stepping toward a shared history felt like an evolution, but what would they discover on the other side? As they began to outline their next steps, the clouds in Sarah's heart began to disperse, revealing glimmers of anticipation. Yet, as they shared a tentative understanding, a chilling reality settled. What truth awaited them was still cloaked in secrecy, and some were bound to hurt. Outside, the storm began to wane, but deep within Sarah, the tempest of uncertainty stirred. With her history unfurling like a wild map, the real journey loomed ahead, one that transcended the letter, driving her into revelations that could either forge a brighter future or unravel their very foundations. She began, the words catching in her throat as images of Lily flashed through her mind. In that moment, Sarah understood this journey was more than about her. It was about paving a path for Lily and their intertwined destinies. I want to know, she finally declared, but I need your help. We can't face this alone. Helen's expression softened, a glimmer of hope sparking in her eyes. Then let's start together. The air shifted around them, a fragile alliance forming as the shadows of the past loomed large, but seemed less menacing when faced together. Stepping toward a shared history felt like an evolution, but what would they discover on the other side? As they began to outline their next steps, the clouds in Sarah's heart began to disperse, revealing glimmers of anticipation. Yet, as they shared a tentative understanding, a chilling reality settled. What truth awaited them was still cloaked in secrecy, and some were bound to hurt. Outside, the storm began to wane, but deep within Sarah, the tempest of uncertainty stirred. With her history unfurling like a wild map, the real journey loomed ahead, one that transcended the letter, driving her into revelations that could either forge a brighter future or unravel their very foundations. The next step bore down on her. Would she dare to turn the pages of what had long remained unspoken? Sarah took a deep breath, drawing in the faint scent of coffee and pastries, remnants of a seemingly ordinary day that was now anything but. She and Helen had committed themselves to unearthing truths, yet uncertainty churned inside her like a storm in the distance. "What's the first step?" Sarah asked, half on autopilot, her mind racing through potential outcomes. Both excitement and apprehension danced in her chest, a duality that felt almost overwhelming. Helen looked away momentarily, as if searching the past for guidance, before meeting Sarah's eyes. "We need to learn more about that letter. It might be a fragmented piece of a larger story." Sarah nodded, eager, but also afraid of what they might unearth. Perhaps the letter was a gateway to understanding family dynamics long obscured by misunderstandings. As they planned their research, she felt a flicker of an old determination, an ember that had once driven her to pursue her dreams. But now it wasn't just about her, it was for Lily. Her daughter deserved to know the truth that had remained hidden for far too long. "How do we start?" Sarah pressed, her voice steadier now, infused with purpose. "I have some contacts," Helen replied, her tone taking on an air of authority. "People who can help us get access to family records. They might help us understand the context of everything that letter might represent." Sarah felt the knot in her stomach loosen slightly. This was a feasible first step, something tangible while grappling with the ethereal weight of legacy. "Let's do it," she declared, uncharacteristically decisive. She felt the eye of the storm shift, shifting from chaos to potential. Days passed as they delved into research. Each uncovering felt thrilling yet daunting. Old photos revealed smiles that belied the heartache behind the lens. Documents hinted at generational rift she had never been aware of. With each discovery came new questions, uncertainty about long-held family narratives that felt both familiar and foreign. However, Sarah felt a growing sense of clarity. Each revelation built upon the last, revealing not just her family's past, but her evolving identity, a tapestry woven of both strength and sorrow. One evening, after followed leads had unearthed further correspondence from generations past, Sarah sat across from Helen at the diner, fatigue weighing down her eyelids. "It's terrifying, Helen. It's like opening Pandora's box." Helen's eyes narrowed, the shadows of her own burdens mingling with empathy. "I understand. Every layer we peel back could reveal pain. But remember, knowledge is power. Our family has suffered in silence for too long." For a moment, Sarah's resolve wavered. The thought of digging deeper filled her with trepidation. Perhaps some secrets were better left buried. Then she remembered Lily. The urge to protect her daughter from the cycles of dysfunction that had plagued their family fanned the flames of her determination once more. She would do this, not just for answers, but to forge a healthier path for her future. "Let's get that letter," she said suddenly, a spark igniting in her voice. "It's time to confront what it holds. I can't let fear hold me back any longer." Helen smiled softly, a mix of pride and reassurance. "That's the spirit. The truth may hurt, but it always leads us back to ourselves." In that moment, Sarah felt a sense of empowerment bloom. She was no longer just a reluctant participant in her story. She was an architect of her destiny, ready to face the past head-on. Yet, as she left the diner, the shadows in her mind flickered with uncertainty. A small voice whispered whether she was truly ready for the answers they might find. Could this journey lead to healing, or would it shatter everything she thought she knew? As she lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, a quiet resolve began to form. The next chapter was upon her, imbued with both promise and peril. In the depths of the night, an unsettling thought coiled within. What if some secrets held the power to redefine everything? With the dawn breaking, Sarah realized that embarking on this expedition would demand all her strength, yet would also unveil facets of herself she never knew existed. She closed her eyes, ready to face what lay ahead. Yet a whisper of doubt lingered. Was she truly prepared to uncover the past, regardless of the consequences? As the sun rose the next morning, its light cascading into Sarah's room, the urgency of her undertaking sank deep within her bones. She could feel the flutter of tension in her stomach, a constant reminder of the responsibility weighing on her shoulders. Today was going to matter. She spent the morning reviewing her notes, making connections between the dates and names that populated her family's history. The letter they were chasing was more than just a piece of paper. It was a potential turning point. Sarah's mind spun with thoughts of who might have written it and what it could mean for her family's present. Each word she read felt like a thread, weaving her closer to the tapestry of truth, yet threatening to unravel the fabric of her understanding. As she and Helen met at the library later that day, Sarah noticed the library's old wooden shelves filled with books, much like the stories of her family, layered and complex. What if this leads to something that changes everything for us? She mused aloud, her fingers tracing the spines of books that borrowed her imagination. Helen peered at her thoughtfully. Change often feels heavy, Sarah. Are you prepared for that weight? The question gnawed at Sarah. Was she really ready for the upheaval? Yet the thought of leaving no stone unturned ignited a spark within. I need to know, she replied firmly, the declaration reverberating inside her. They approached the reference desk and asked for assistance. The librarian, an older woman with gentle kindness in her eyes, guided them to family history databases. As they sifted through the archives, Sarah felt her anxieties begin to dissolve. This was investigative work, tangible and compelling. She was no longer drifting in uncertainty, but actively engaging with her family's narrative. Hours passed in focused intensity. They discovered unforeseen connections, a great-grandmother who had been an activist, a lost relative who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. With every new piece, Sarah's drive intensified, yet so did the complexity of the motivations behind those relationships. Who were these people, really? The stakes rose sharply when they located the original letter nestled in the richest collection on familial correspondences. It was typed, but the signature was a scrawl she immediately recognized, her father's handwriting. A cold rush of dread coursed through her. What had he known? Why had he hidden this? "Sarah, are you all right?" Helen's voice cut through her whirlwind of thoughts. "No," Sarah replied, her voice trembling as she unfolded the paper. The letter detailed a bitter dispute, family divisions laid bare, but it was the closing lines that struck her with brutal force. "I can't let this poison continue." Words swam before her, the implications more profound than any she had anticipated. She felt a bitterness rise, an instinctual urge to hold her father accountable for the silence that had suffocated generations. "What did he do?" she whispered, realization dawning like a dark shadow over her. For a brief moment, her mind wandered to Lily. This was their legacy. "Sarah," Helen's voice brought her back. "Are you ready for the answers? You don't have to go deeper if you're not ready." But her thoughts were already racing forward, envisioning how this truth would shift everything she had ever understood about her family. "I need to learn how to confront this," she stated, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. "For Lily's sake." The weight of the letter sat heavy in her hands, a gateway into the fissures she now had to navigate. Resolutely, she packed her findings, ready to turn back and confront her father, the man whose silence had shaped so much of her life. Yet as they walked out of that library, a new thought pricked at her. If she dared to challenge the legacy of betrayal, what might she discover? Was she truly prepared to face not only her father's secrets, but the flood of revelations about herself? That night, as she lay in bed enveloped by darkness, her heart raced with anticipation. What would the confrontation bring about? Would this unravel the very fabric of her family's narrative? Or could she reclaim it in a way that transformed it forever? The answers loomed ahead like shadows waiting to be embraced. The morning sun poured into Sarah's room again, warmer today, as if urging her forward. Her heart thrummed with the cacophony of emotions swirling within her. She had spent restless hours tossing in bed, weighed down by the impending confrontation with her father. The prospect both frightened and exhilarated her. With each passing moment, the letter felt less like an artifact and more like a key poised to unlock a truth she wasn't sure she was ready to embrace. Determined, she rose and prepared herself, tossing on a simple outfit as if to strip away any superfluous layers that might inhibit her. She wanted to be clear-headed, focused on her purpose. No distractions would accompany her today. Each movement fueled her urgency, her resolve solidifying with each mirror glance. For too long, she had been shackled to her family's unspoken histories. Now she would confront the very foundation of those bonds. At her father's house, every creak of the floorboards underscored the fragility of their moments together. As she stepped through the threshold, the familiar smells and worn decorations struck her. This place held both comfort and chaos. She took steadying breaths, the weight of her findings pressing against her chest. It was time. "Dad," she called softly, her voice almost swallowed by the house that echoed with memories. He emerged cautiously, his features shadowed by concern. "Sarah, everything all right?" Her heart sank momentarily under the weight of his question, knowing what lay ahead could shatter the facade they had both created. "Can we talk?" His brow furrowed, unease flickering across his face as he motioned for her to follow him into the living room. They settled into the expected routine, father seated in his armchair, daughter perched on the edge of a couch. The familiar positioning felt foreign today. "I found something," she began, her voice tremoring yet firm. "A letter. It's from you." He stiffened visibly, his gaze shifting away, as if the very sight of her was a reminder of the past he wished remained buried. "What do you mean? I don't understand." She placed the letter before him, unfolding its significance like a dare, confront him with the truth contained on those faded pages. "You wrote this, about family, about poison. What did you mean by that?" His fingers brushed against the paper, but he hesitated. "Sarah, that was a long time ago. You don't need to dwell on it." "But I do," she interrupted, emotion surging through her words. "This isn't just an old letter. It's our history, our legacy. You've hidden this from me, from us. Why?" For a moment, silence reigned, heavy and suffocating. She felt the walls of that room constrict around them. It became clear that he wasn't merely avoiding the conversation. He was stifling the truths that could dismantle everything they had ever constructed together. "Sometimes people do things to protect others," he finally uttered, his voice low with a tinge of regret. "These divisions, they were meant to shield you. I didn't want to burden you with the past." "By hiding it? By pretending it doesn't exist?" Sarah pushed back, her determination swelling. "This isn't just about you anymore. It affects Lily, what we choose to pass on. We're not just dealing with family trees. We're living hermetic cycles." She could see the storm brewing behind his eyes, a tempest of defenses clashing against his instincts as a father. She braced herself. The confrontation was escalating into uncharted territory. "I can't change the past. I can't change who I am," he countered, but the resolve in his voice faltered, revealing cracks in a carefully crafted facade. "Maybe it's time you tried," she replied, her voice striking a chord of warmth amidst the confrontation. For the first time, she saw something shift in him, a flicker of vulnerability as he regarded her with new understanding. Then tell me, he shot back, inches from raising his voice but fighting the impulse. What do you want to know? This was the moment she needed. This was what she had been preparing for. She leaned in, her heart racing, ready to embark on a journey of discovery that promised to reshape their entire family tree. What really happened? She asked slowly, lingering on each word. What did you do to stop the poison? The silence that followed was deafening, almost as if the house itself held its breath for what would come next. The truth that could either bind them or ultimately sever their ties forever. Sarah braced herself, eager and terrified for the revelation ahead. The air thickened with a shared tension, forcing Sarah to wrestle with the whirlwind of emotions that surged within her. She could almost feel the house pulse, alive with the echoes of unspoken truths. Would this confrontation unravel their family myth, or would they remain bound to it? Her father's eyes darted around the room, unwilling to meet hers. He clenched the letter, his fingers drawing white lines against the paper as if it were a lifeline he could cling to. It's complicated, Sarah. There are things you aren't ready to hear, he said, each word weighed down by layers of history. But I am ready, she insisted, laced with resolve. I've spent too long in the dark, trying to see what's been hidden, no more. He exhaled sharply, glancing over his shoulder as if the walls themselves might offer him an escape. The shift in his demeanor was seismic, yet she saw a flicker of determination as his gaze returned to her. The chair creaked under his movement, a physical indication of his struggle. It was about your grandmother. She believed in certain things that could drive a wedge between us. I thought keeping it hidden would protect you. Protect me? She echoed incredulously. You think shielding me from the truth has done me any favors? I can't follow in the footsteps of that silence anymore. His silence stretched, a mirror of the shadows that had haunted their lineage. Sarah's heart raced, feeling the responsibility of not just uncovering her family history, but confronting its implications. What you don't understand can't protect you. This knowledge could poison your perspective. Then let me decide for myself, she interrupted fiercely, rising from the couch, the adrenaline propelling her feet to ground her resolve. Let's face it together, Dad. Pretending is what poisons us. The moment hung precariously between them, both recognition and fear swirling round the room. She watched him grapple with the reality of her words. Would he break, or would he continue to uphold the walls he'd built? Finally, he resigned, the fight retreating from his posture. I made mistakes, believing ignorance was a blessing. His voice trembled, laden with grief. Then let's unearth that blessing together, Sarah suggested gently. There's no room for lies, only for growth. As he looked up at her, something in his expression shifted. A flicker of resolve replaced his earlier reticence. When I was a boy, there was a ritual. Your grandmother's obsession with family lineage, a legacy of illness, of betrayal. She sought solutions that didn't exist. I wanted to protect you from that legacy, not pass it down like a curse. Sarah absorbed his words, pieces of their family tapestry now fraying at the seams. She could almost envision the stories he had tucked away, cautionary tales turned into specters that haunted her childhood. This revelation stirred an uncertain courage within her. It felt as if she was unearthing buried treasures amidst the decay of familial history, ready to redefine her path and lineage. Tell me everything, she urged, her voice steadier. We can either confront this head-on or let it consume us. Her father swallowed hard, a lifetime of regret reflected in his eyes. Would he unlock the vault of generations past? She felt the gravity of the moment tethering her to history, ready to reclaim it for herself. His gaze turned serious, a new energy vibrating through him. There are secrets in our blood, truths that can either bind us or free us, he declared, stepping off the metaphorical precipice into the revelations that awaited them both. As he began to share the past, Sarah felt the weight of her grandfather's choices resonate deeply, and her own identity sparking with newfound awareness. But looming at the edge of her mind was a question that felt pressing, an inquiry deeper than the family madness they were about to uncover. What if the secrets we uncover don't just redefine our past, but spark a change for the future? What if we discover a truth that liberates us from this cycle? Each word ignited a flicker of hope, yet Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this journey had only just begun, the shadows still lingering in the corners. Where would this revelation lead them? She took a deep, steadied breath, knowing the answers awaited just beyond the unveiling murk of their family secrets. As the gravity of her father's words settled over them like a heavy fog, Sarah felt an insistent stirring within her. This was not merely a family story unfolding, it was the blueprint of her very existence. The secrets he was about to unveil might just unlock pathways she had never imagined. "Your grandmother," he began, his fingers still gripping the letter that seemed to pulsate with a life of its own, was obsessed with the past, her own and by extension, ours. She believed that our family carried a darkness, a curse that could be lifted through understanding and ritual. But in her quest for clarity, she overlooked the damage that these beliefs could inflict on us. His voice trembled, revealing the child still echoing within him, haunted by the bedtime tales spun into nightmares. "When I was young, it felt like living under a storm cloud. There were whispers, moments we came together as a family only to dance around uncomfortable truths. I swore I wouldn't pass that burden on, but in protecting you, I merely prolonged the silence." Sarah listened intently, her heart racing as flashes of memories skated through her mind. Family gatherings, steep a mother's distant gaze, sometimes fixed on nothing. Each fragment started to embed itself in the narrative he was constructing, connecting dots in ways that ignited indignation. Was it fear that led her to this obsession? She asked, an unexpected bitterness creeping into her tongue. Or was it arrogance and thinking she could control it? "Fear and a desperate need to understand," he replied, meeting her eyes with a somber clarity that grounded them both. She thought uncovering our lineage would expunge the shadows rather than reveal them. Returning her attention to the corner of the room where light barely penetrated, she felt the confrontation come alive in her mind, a fierce yearning to confront her own fears. "So, what do we do now? How do we begin to sift through the debris of a past built on superstition?" Her father hesitated, the weight of decision pressing upon him. Her inquiries like ripples in a still pond, erupting with potential chaos. "We confront it," he assured, with a newfound conviction. "Each layer we peel back, each story we share, could serve as both reminder and resolution." Returning her attention to the corner of the room where light barely penetrated, she felt the confrontation come alive in her mind, a fierce yearning to confront her own fears. "So, what do we do now? How do we begin to sift through the debris of a past built on superstition?" Her father hesitated, the weight of decision pressing upon him. Her inquiries like ripples in a still pond, erupting with potential chaos. "We confront it," he assured, with a newfound conviction. "Each layer we peel back, each story we share, could serve as both reminder and resolution." "Then let's start now," Sarah urged, her voice steady with purpose. "Let's delve into the truth hidden along with the baggage, even if it scares us. Change doesn't happen without risk." An unexpected warmth surged within her as she witnessed her father's transformation from a hesitant figure into a partner in this uncharted territory. He drew a deep breath, emboldened by her grip on the moment, their dialogue flushing out the shadows that had dictated their lives. "In order to break the cycle, we must find what my mother sought," he instructed, ignited by her fire. "Perhaps there is wisdom in those rituals, but more importantly, we'll redefine their relevance." As they embarked into their exploration, piecing together fragmented tales spun across generations, Sarah felt an exhilaration surprise her. This wasn't simply a search for family secrets, but a reclamation of identity, each new revelation kindling her passion for self-discovery. She inhaled the familiar scent of aged wood and dust, grounding herself in the reality that they were confronting not just the manifestations of another's fears, but sculpting their own destinies. Memories lost in the corridors of time suddenly felt vibrant, their powerful lessons simmering just beneath the surface. "Let's narrate our own story now," she proclaimed, her heart pounding with the promise of possibilities, "not just to understand the past, but to chart our own future." As the door swung open to their ancestral chambers, the air buzzed with unseen energy, ready for them to harvest what lay beyond. But amidst the thrill, a nagging doubt flickered at the back of Sarah's mind. Could they indeed turn these revelations into a launchpad for growth, or would the shadows of their lineage still triumph over their resolve? The challenge loomed large before them, yet it was not just about facing family secrets. It was about engaging in a fight for agency, a fight that had not just her name on it, but the legacy of every generation before her. Before they stepped entirely into the unknown, one question erupted in her mind like a wildfire. Would they emerge from this journey whole, or would the act of unearthing their past inevitably fracture them further? As they stepped into the dimly lit room, the weight of centuries followed them, saturating the air with a palpable tension that crackled like electricity. Sarah felt her body awaken to possibility, but also to fear. Each step taken felt monumental. Each creak of the old wooden floor beneath her was a reminder of the legacy she was inching into. Her eyes roamed over the clutter of artifacts lining the walls, faded portraits, tattered quilts, and dusty mementos of a family history that often felt oppressive rather than liberating. Those remnants pulsed with stories, beckoning her to absorb their lessons. She and her father stood on the precipice of something momentous, but the uncertainty gnawed at her insides like a persistent vine. "What if we find something we're not prepared for?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her father's face hardened with determination. "We'll prepare as we go. We've already made a choice to confront the unknown instead of running from it." His fortitude invigorated her, pushing away the shadows that lingered at the edge of her mind. With renewed resolve, Sarah approached the wooden chest sitting in the corner, a relic of her grandmother's former life, symbols etched into its worn surface. It looked mundane at first glance, yet she sensed torrents of meaning buried deep within. She knelt and lifted the lid, a rush of musty air pouring out, laced with a touch of the past, the scent of long-ago memories. "Help me with this," she urged, coaxing for father to join her. Together they leaned in, revealing layers of parchment and brittle fabric. As they carefully unveiled the contents, her fingers brushed against an intricately embroidered tablecloth, the stitches forming patterns she had seen in her grandmother's photo album. "These designs, they resemble the symbols she studied," Sarah murmured, her heart quickening. She must have had a purpose in creating this. "Maybe it was part of a ritual," her father speculated, dipping his hands through the remnants in search of insight. But what was she trying to summon, to communicate? The words hung there like a challenge. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became that their forebear had been embroiled in an internal struggle, trying to externalize whatever turmoil inhabited her spirit. Fingers trembling, Sarah touched a brittle envelope tucked beneath the cloth. It felt significant, almost alive. She hesitated, uncertain of the secrets it might unveil, the truths that perhaps had remained unspoken for too long. Just as uncertainty threatened to engulf her once more, she tore it open and began to read aloud. Her breath caught as old words painted a scene, mixed emotions dripping from the ink that had once flowed freely from her grandmother's pen. It documented a struggle not just with her past, but with intense battles against isolation, stigma, and fear, battles she had fought alone. Is this what drove her obsession? Sarah wondered aloud. Tears stung her eyes as they encountered descriptions of devastating events and misplaced loyalties that shaped their family's narrative. Where had courage slipped away? Could it have been stifled by fear of the unknown? Yes, her father asserted, voice breaking through her reverie. This is the core of it. We've always danced around it. It's not just the curses, but the unresolved grief that shaped her. Feeling a sense of empowerment rising within her, Sarah clenched the letter tighter. We can redefine this. We can turn this pain into our strength. The question struck her like lightning, igniting a furious spark of determination in her belly. If they could unearth these motivations, redefine them, perhaps they too could escape the cycle and cultivate their own narrative. As they stood in the profound quiet of that room, surrounded by generations of struggle, a new challenge emerged. The history was no longer just a relic of their ancestry. It was a map guiding them towards self-discovery and personal stakes. Each revelation came with the weight of expectation. What do we do with this? Her father pressed, eyeing her as if drawing from her newfound courage. We confront it publicly, Sarah said resolutely, her voice rising with urgency. We have a responsibility to share this, honestly and vulnerably. We can shed light into the corners of darkness and reclaim what's ours, but it won't be easy. Her heart raced with the implications, an exhilarating yet frightening envelopment of what loomed ahead. The path to confronting their family's history stretched before them, arduous yet promising. But lurking beneath her resolve was still that faint whisper of lingering doubt. Would their revelations shatter the foundations they had envisioned? Or would they forge an unbreakable lineage of understanding? The tension was taut, an ever-looming possibility. Before them lay not just the ghosts of the past, but the accountability for crafting their own futures. Gathering this strength within her, Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for the impact of what was yet to come. Would confronting these truths propel them to true liberation? Or would it unleash even darker shadows waiting to consume them whole? Days turned into weeks, and Sarah found herself immersed in a transformative journey that had unveiled layers of her family's past, each discovery etching a new narrative into her identity. She and her father had spent countless hours rifling through boxes and archives, engaged in heart-to-heart conversations that expanded their understanding of not just their lineage, but of themselves. The letter, once weighing heavily with secrets and burdens, had become a catalyst for healing. Conversations that had previously been strained under the weight of unsaid words and misunderstandings evolved into moments of connection. Every time they delved into a new piece of history, they were not just digging into the past, they were rebuilding their relationship, brick by brick. One chilly evening, as they sat surrounded by the remnants of their family legacy, her father turned to her with a newfound clarity. I never believed confronting these truths would be so freeing, he admitted, his voice steady. It's as if we are disentangling the chains that held us captive. Sarah nodded, her heart swelling with understanding. Creating space for honesty has lifted so much weight, Dad. We should continue sharing this with others so they know they're not alone in their struggles. Harnessing this revelation, Sarah had begun to draft her first blog post, aptly titled Unraveling Our Roots, A Journey to Understanding. It was time to transform their healing into a narrative that could help others break through their own shadows. This blog would serve as a platform for storytelling, demonstrating how confronting family legacies, not just facing the lightest of them, but the darkest, could empower genuinely authentic lives. The following weekend, with her father's support, she shared the first entry online. The response was overwhelming. Individuals reached out, sharing their anecdotes of familial battles and triumphs that echoed her own experiences. Within days, Sarah's small corner of the internet grew as people flocked to connect and share their stories. With each passing day, as engagement flourished, Sarah felt a deepening sense of purpose. Acclaim and recognition began to trickle in. She was even featured in local newspapers, her journey resonating with many who were struggling with their hidden histories. It was not fame she sought. Instead, it was the validation that there was strength found in vulnerability, strength that started with facing your past head-on. Through this journey, Lily had also been by her side, fascinated by the stories her mother was uncovering. They spent evenings tracing their family tree and discussing the lessons learned through their exploration. Sarah felt pride swell in her as she witnessed her daughter engage with the realities of family dynamics, drawing strength from the stories of resilience rather than succumbing to the burdens of secrecy. The culmination of Sarah's transformative journey came one evening at the diner, a place that was once her confining safety net, now a backdrop to a new chapter. Surrounded by her family and close friends, Sarah held a small gathering to celebrate their journey together and to share the stories that had emerged from the shadows. Individuals from the community attended, drawn not only by the allure of her journey, but by their own desires to explore their legacies. With a tremor of excitement, Sarah stepped onto a makeshift stage. "Today, I stand not just as your friend, but as a fellow traveler in this life," she addressed. "Together, we will shift the narrative. Each story of sorrow and triumph transforms the fabric of our existence. Let's embrace our pasts, decipher our family legacies, and weave them into tales of resilience and power." Applause echoed within the diner, but a silence wrapped around her as Sarah engaged with the faces before her. The familiar warmth of recognition filled her heart. She had not only uncovered her family's truth, she had conquered the greatest obstacle, the fear of her own worth, transforming it into empowerment, authenticity, and confidence. By stepping into her truth, Sarah had established herself not just as a healer of her family's history, but as a voice and anchor for others confronting their pasts. She proved that facing what lies beneath fostered genuine growth, resilience, and strength, paving ways for generations to come. "This is our moment," she thought, a calm certainty guiding her. "This is my legacy." Her journey, once clouded in uncertainty and fear, had sharpened into a profound recognition of her own strength and purpose. No longer just a diner worker, but a nurturer of stories, a broker of familial truths, she emerged emboldened, her identity firmly rooted in all she had discovered. Now, readers everywhere could take inspiration from her experiences. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Comment below to share your reactions and theories about this journey of personal transformation. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's spread the word. Together, we can rewrite our legacies.